Harvard, University of Beirut, Ibadan in Nigeria, University of Pennsylvania, Harvard, Yale, all these places. And he was sharing the story. Students to Selma. And we took them again this year. And thanks to the Center for Interfaith Cooperation, Dr. Deb Saxon, raise your hand back there.
Charlie
and any other
Charlie Watts here.
Charlie Wiles or Charlie? Dr. Wanda Reese. And we took students and ourselves to Selma. And lo and behold, we found several things out. Malcolm X was in Selma. He was supposed to meet Dr. King, but Dr. King got arrested and was in jail in Birmingham. And he tried to go meet Dr. King, and the police would not let him and Dr. King meet. Again, divine encounter. So he met with Coretta Scott King, and they built a great relationship. Betty Shabazz and Coretta Scott King, they built a great relationship. They continue to communicate over the years. And so, as we learned, two things that happened when Dr. Yasha Shabazz, Malcolm X's daughter, I heard this about in 2019 from her. She said, look at I'm going to post some things on my website where you can go look at these videos. And you'll see these videos when Malcolm X is speaking to the youth in Selma, Alabama. 90% of the audience were teenagers. Think about that. Fast forward really quickly, when Robert Kennedy came to speak in Indianapolis, over at the park on 17th and Ruckle, I was there. 90% of the people there were teens or young people. Same thing when he came over to, where was that, at Riverside?
At 21st and Harding.
At 21st and Harding. When Robert Kennedy spoke at 21st and Harding,
I was there.
He was there. And the majority of the audience were young people. So that's why Malcolm and Martin, when you look at Martin Luther King, and you look at the people the crowds that he talked to, and the marches that he organized, were young people, primarily teenagers, and maybe a few young adults and college students. And so they knew that we had to communicate with our youth, with our young, for them to know who they are, whose they are, why they're here, right, where they're going, and their purpose. They knew that, and I followed that model to create the rites of passage. I'm going to close because this is a lot. I mean, there's so much more. I'm going to close with saying that just like they divided Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, even though they were on the same pathway, they weren't the same thing. But one wanted us to have skills, the other wanted us to be more educated, right? One wanted us to have lawyers, doctors, accountants. Others wanted to have skilled craftsmen, home builders, stuff like that, you know. But they were talking about the best for our family, for our human family, because we need all of it. Same thing with Noble Drew Ali and Marcus Garvey. Same thing with Dr. King and Malcolm X. You know, how many of y'all have heard any discussion or arguments about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson? Because if you study, they were far apart, but they don't tell us that. But they want us to think that we can't get along. And so finally, as we listen to the women talk about the women who influenced Malcolm X, I'm going to drop something on you too. That there was a there were women who heard his speeches about human rights. And so, how many of y'all have heard of Angela Davis, Alice Walker, Shaka Khan, Aretha Franklin? All right, I'm gonna drop a new one on you. Amina Wadu. Amina Wadu. Okay, so they took this concept of human rights and created what they called womanism for African American, because it was womanists, there were feminists who were largely Caucasian, right? But they came up with a thing for African American women called womanism, or they were wominists, and they came up with womanism. And Alice Walker writes it about in her book, from the Garden of Our Mothers. Read it again, okay? And then Aretha Franklin created a song called Respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, and we were listening thinking that she was talking about her and a personal relationship. I went to a concert with my brother in the 70s, and she put civil rights lyrics into that R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Shaka Khan did the same thing with I'm Every Woman. And Angela Davis did it to help us understand that we can't do anything by ourselves. Men, male, we can't do it by ourselves. Okay? That's it. And then Amina Wadud is coming along, and she's talking about Islamic feminism. And that's a little bit controversial for a lot of people to understand. But if you never heard of her, read Amina Wadud. I was at an event in California, and I was surprised to see that there were 4 women imams. So women have crossed the Christian threshold to become pastors, and even many pastors now, many churches now don't want women pastors. But in talking about human rights, that includes everybody. So I hope I didn't bore you. Hope if you got any questions or things like that, so we can move along. Yes, sir. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
One question.
Yes, sir. Did you do rites of passage at Beechwood in the early 90s? Somebody did rites of passage at Beechwood in the early 90s.
What was Beechwood? What was it?
Over 30th and
Arlington.
or about 30th and Arlington.
No, not Beechwood. But we did it in Brightwood. We did it at Zunieville. Down there. Southside. And we did it at the Boys and Girls Club on the Atkins Boys and Girls Club, the Wheeler Boys and Girls Club in the YMCA.
Okay. Let's give another round of applause for Dr. Cleek Ladd. There's a lot of people here that have a lot of life experiences. Oh my goodness, he's just right in the crowd right here. You know, I originally intended to have a chance to look closer and people sit along with the bench, but if you feel comfortable, if you don't mind coming up front, you can. We ran out of seats. But I want to next introduce City County Councilman Keith Graves. He is also my City County Councilman and doing some fantastic things. When we began planning this event, we approached the mayor's office, and he came out yesterday. You heard him yesterday. And he told us, yes, I'm looking for the pictures now. He got one of these shirts, and he told everybody, we're live again now. He said, I'm wearing this shirt to the Fever's basketball game. I was going to run out and buy me a ticket just to see that. But anyway, he came, and he was very gracious and very supportive, realizing that there are different pathways to still all can be Americans. Along with that, our City County Council wrote a beautiful proclamation. So give your attention to our Councilman Keith Graves, and he's going to read the proclamation, share a few thoughts if you will. Councilman Keith Graves.
Thank you, Mom. Appreciate you and giving me this opportunity to address the crowd on behalf of the men and women on our City County Council under the leadership of Council President Bob Osley. We all have, as Dr. mentioned, we all have our experience that we can recall back to when we think of Minister Malcolm X. Real quickly, my experience was 12 years old, 15 years old, and even 17 years old, I started to understand that the world may not like Black people. I didn't understand my feelings. I'm still navigating through being a young man. And I went to college, and somehow one of the required readings was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I realized that I wasn't alone in that feeling and that struggle, but I wanted to learn how to channel that. And that book gave me some important principles to help me channel that. And for the last 30 years, I've been giving back to my community in various different ways. And today I'm a member of the Indianapolis City Council, representing a community on the east side. And everything that I do is to uplift my people. And it's truly inspired by Minister Malcolm X. Thank you. So I'll be brief and read some of these sections in this particular proclamation, because as Mom mentioned, I'm super proud of the words. It gives me chills just to think about so many years ago when I first read his autobiography. This is a proclamation celebrating the 100th birthday of El Haj Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X. Whereas on May 19th, 1925, a luminary was born in Omaha, Nebraska, who would rise to become one of the most influential voices for justice and equality in American history. Whereas El Haj Malik El Shabazz, known to the world as Malcolm X, dedicated his life to the pursuit of racial pride, Black nationalism, and the empowerment of African Americans during a pivotal era of civil rights activism. Whereas Malcolm X's journey from adversity to leadership exemplifies resilience and transformation, overcoming personal struggles. He emerged as a powerful advocate for the voiceless and an articulate critic of social injustices. Whereas through his role in the Nation of Islam and beyond, Malcolm X inspired countless individuals to embrace their identity, challenge systemic oppression, and seek justice by any means necessary. Whereas his teachings continue to resonate today as they laid foundational principles for the Black Power movement and significantly influenced discussions surrounding race relations in America. Whereas we gather to honor Malcolm X's enduring legacy on this momentous occasion, marking the 100th anniversary of his birth, celebrating not only his life, but also his unwavering commitment to truth, integrity, and empowerment for all people. Whereas Malcolm's Hajj, his pilgrimage to Mecca, earned him the name El Haj Malik El Shabazz, a journey that taught him the universality of humanity and an acceptance of all races who endeavor for justice now and forever. Therefore, let it be proclaimed by the City County Council of the City of Indianapolis and of Marion County, Indiana. Section 1, May 19th, 2025 is considered Malcolm X Day. Section 2, in recognition of El Haj Malik El Shabazz's profound impact on our society, let us come together at the Nur Allah Islamic Center to commemorate his life through reflection, education, and celebration. May we be inspired by his courage to confront injustice and strive for a future rooted in equality. This is signed by Council President Bob Ossoly, and it is now in effect. Thank you all.
Thank you.
That is a powerful proclamation. and to have tomorrow, you can tell everybody, say today is Malcolm X Day in Indianapolis. I gotta tell you the truth. When I first read this, it's kind of like my friend told me when my brother-in-law said when he literally won $1 million in the lottery. So he read it, he sat down, he sat back in the chair for a while, then he rubbed his eyes a little bit, he read it again, and like, I'm a millionaire. And so when I read this, I said, Indianapolis? I'm in Indianapolis? I read it again. And I felt like a billionaire. But we have food. The food not ready yet. We can have a wonderful, I think, powerful discussion. We're going to ask the women to come forward, and we're going to have a panel discussion. But also, that easel right here by the table here, if you get a chance, pay attention to that lower picture. I won't tell you what you're going to see. You got to look at it twice, and you see a wonderful, wonderful message. I ordered it online, but I ain't going to tell. She can take a picture of it. No, that's not my business. She want to get a snapshot of it. It is a very powerful picture involving Dr. King and El Haj Shabazz. So we're going to have our panel to come forward. Going to be moderated by Dr. Marilyn Gill. And we have also Sister Joy Rashid, Sister Latava. I don't want to get her last name mispronounced. She can tell us. And Dr. Lisa Maxson. This portion here is so important. You come up front, please, here. Because we want to hear the voices of the women who have brought us this forth. So, as I said again, if you want, feel free to come sit on the picnic table. You can, if you feel comfortable. And they're going to discuss the women who impacted Malcolm X. Namely, his mother, Louise Little, his sister, his half-sister, his sister, Ella Collins Little, and his wife, Dr. Betty Shabazz. Dr. Betty Shabazz. So, yes, you might go ahead and look up about doing the yes, so anybody who wants to record it, here comes Sister Green right the table. I didn't want to embarrass myself to say your last.
Billy Jango.
My Billy Jango.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
Oh, one who calls people together and built to last a long time, like a tradition, a monument, a cause, you know.
One who calls people together
and building something like
and
this.
builds institutions. It lasts a long time. Yes, ma'am. So we're gonna bring the mic over. She got the mic. So, Dr. Gail, it's your honor, my honor, to give you the mic.
Thank you. I would like to say that it is both an honor and a privilege to serve as the facilitator of this afternoon's women's panel, Women Who Influenced Malcolm X. As a female participant in this historical and both inaugural occasion, because I'm sure it's not the last, I recognize really the significance of today's discussion in shedding light on the vital yet very often overlooked influence of women in shaping transformative leaders of today. So in today's world, and we hear it a lot, the term influencer. Well, we know that the influencer is frequently attached to someone who wants to manipulate for personal gain. They don't mind telling truth. They don't mind telling half truth or even falsehoods for personal gain and recognition and to persuade you, the listener. However, today's panel will take a different approach. We will focus on the true influence of Muslim women whose wisdom, strength, and guidance profoundly impacted Malcolm X. So it is my privilege to introduce three very distinguished Muslim women who will share their insights. So please jot questions down or keep them in your memory, and we will answer them at the end of our panel. I will briefly introduce to you the three characters that we have today, and they are going to look at their character in light of at least one of these personalities, I would say, or maybe something other than what I'm going to mention. But we're going to look at these women who influenced Malcolm X as either a comforter, a confronter, a challenger, a counselor, a co-benefactor, or a celebrator. So the three panelists, without further ado, are first of all, Dr. Lisa Maxey. She attended undergrad at what was referred to as IUPUI at one time and graduated in 1995 with a communications minor in film. She was married to Keith Smith and had two children. Both children are graduates of Ball State University. As she was rearing her children, she continued studies herself at Martin University, which is commendable. And she graduated in 2015 with a degree in urban ministries. She will be talking to us and informing us and influencing us in the character of Malcolm X's mother, Louise Little. The next is Joy Saida Rashid, who has been a Muslim for 32 years this week. She took the name Shahanda in May of 1993. She is the mother of three sons and a grandson. And she says, an avid reader as well as an avid coffee drinker. And then the other character, and let me say that Joy will be telling us and influencing us and informing us on the character of Malcolm X's sister, whose name was Ella. And then the last character is going to be informing us. Her name is Sister Latava Mabila Jango. She serves as chief of a wonderful Pan-African community based here in Indianapolis. She is a mother, author, and entrepreneur for over 30 years. She operates, listen to this now, she operates the largest truly Black-owned immersive learning facility in the city, HER Campus. And what does HER stand for?
Our living campus is honor, educate, and restore.
Honor, educate, and restore. And so it is a 88.5 acre learning environment with a 10,000 square foot garden. It has cabins, tents, chickens, and ducks, and it is used as an outdoor facility event. She will be giving us information, influencing us on the character of his wife, Betty Shabazz. So without further ado, I will first introduce to you and have you get acquainted with Mother Louise Little.
Malcolm, as my son, he was very rambunctious. He wanted to know things. He wanted to, uh, very knowledge. He wanted the knowledge. So I had to impart that knowledge in him. I had to be strong and show strength. We had to fight just to live, basic living. It was a constant fight in the environment, having to fight against racial this and racial that. And my children, all of them, you have to be a certain way. You have to know what one needs and another one may not need. But Malcolm needed a lot. He needed a lot, wanted to know a lot, wanted answers for the environment that we were in, having to fight to be a human, having to fight just to live the basic life, humanity and human activism. He grew up in it, and he is the embodiment of it with the beautiful, shiny red hair glowing when he came out. I knew that he was a special child. He was going to be needed to be protected even that much more, that we all need to be protected. But he just had a light where I knew he was going to need to be protected and cherished, because he was going to have to face that attack that was coming. Just a beautiful soul, a beautiful son as he came out. And when I lost, when his father died, it was painful. Took 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 everything away, just gone. But he was still out there fighting. So as just
Let's give her mother, Louise Little, very big applause for that information and her relationship shared with her son. Now we will hear from his sister, Ella.
Good afternoon. My name is Joy, and I'll be speaking on his half sister, Ella. His big sister was a big influence on him. I originally met him when he was about in the seventh grade. Uh, he was struggling a lot then, having been taken out of the home away from his mother. The rest of his siblings were split up. And so, but I still kept in contact with them through our father. So I'm his sister through the father of the first marriage. I kept in contact with my little brother. We wrote letters. And then I decided to go down and visit him when he was about in the seventh grade. So he was very proud to show his report card to me. He was a very avid reader as well, but just being separated from his siblings, the rest of the siblings, that kind of tore to his spirit, that kind of worked on him. So when I came back and started reconnecting with my other siblings, me and Malcolm kind of struck a different kind of relationship, because we would write back and forth. He would write to me and I would talk to him about how he was doing in class. And I eventually had him to come stay with me. So I took him from where he was and brought him from Detroit and brought him to where I was staying. So this is how he ended up uh, finding out about better connection with the family, because he was torn away, like I say, from the siblings or whatever. And when he came in contact with me, I showed him what it was to be a strong, proud Black woman. I was dark complexion like my father. I showed pride in that. I said what I meant. I meant what I said, and I passed that on to my brother. I let him know that when you speak, say it with conviction. Don't let anybody, no matter what your circumstance may be, that's just a circumstance for the time being, but you hold on to what you have. God has instilled something in you. And not only was I an influence to Malcolm with me being a homeowner and property owner and stuff at the age that he met me, and he was 13 years old when he met me. And I decided to have him come stay with me, and that's when he started his journey in school and learning and stuff. And he ran into certain teachers that, you know, would speak down and told him that no, you can't do that, would put labels on him. But I was always in his ear telling him you can be whatever you want to be. For a while, with all younger siblings, they don't want to listen to you. So Malcolm, being strong-willed that he was, he started going out to nightclubs for a while, and that's where he met some of the people, Duke Ellington and stuff like that. But I was always in his ear because of some of the background and people that I worked for, Adam Clayton Powell being his secretary, and learning that, you know what, you have power, you have, what's the word? It's just instilled. It's an innate ability that is in us. And not only was I an influencer to him, he influenced me as well. Later on, when he became a member of the Nation of Islam, I kept in contact with him after leaving that. I was the one, and unfortunately, when he was shot, and I was the one that had to go view his body and identify him. I paid for the burial. I decided to also become a member of the Nation of Islam in 1950, but in 1959, I decided to break away from that, and I became Sunni Muslim. I also, the house that we grew up in, or that I had him to come stay with me, that became like a historic or a museum, and people would come and visit that. I took over his organization for him. So I was always in the background, having him to have pride in yourself, to not look down on others, to look at the best that you have within yourself, that you can be something, no matter what your current situation is, to always think forward minded, don't look back, you know, continue to look forward. Um, so unlike what people see or they've heard about my brother, like I said, he was a very caring person. He looked out for other people. He just, I think, took on, he took on a lot. I mean, he wanted instant results, whereas over some things it takes time. But Malcolm wanted instant results, and I think sometimes that would cause him to get frustrated or whatever. But with everything that's worth having, it's worth fighting for. So I instilled in my little brother, and I hope that you all will realize that, to stick to it. This, don't give up no matter what. You may look at it this way, but you may have to come from a different angle. So that's my key.
Isn't this exciting information? And I look at the role, Sister Ella, of you being somewhat of a comforter as well as a celebrator. You seem to have always wanted to celebrate Malcolm, to let him know who he was and who he was not. I look at Mother Louise Little as more a counselor to him, with the wisdom, guiding him with your wisdom, and letting him know what he has been purposed and born to do. So lastly, we will hear from his wife, Miss Betty Shabazz.
Greetings, Assalamu alaikum again. You all please forgive me for not embodying character because I don't know that I could do justice to Dr. Betty Shabazz. But I do want to share as graciously as I can what I feel is very much so her influence and her and to honor her legacy, not just as the wife of Brother Malcolm, but also in a sense how she played a maternal role in the influence of, yes, civil rights and the Black Power movement, as well as within the Islamic community, generally speaking, but the Black community, broadly speaking, and influential in the world. So
Please accept this in that regard. Many times, out of familiarity, similarly to what we see happen in the media with President Obama, we hear people refer to him as Barack Obama, out of familiarity. And we often do this with Dr. Betty Shabazz. You'll find that she's referred to as Betty Shabazz, the wife or widow of Malcolm X, Malika Shabazz, that type of thing, out of familiarity. And I'm going to say it out of love, but in all high honor and respect, she is and was Dr. Betty Shabazz, and she earned and deserved that right. So I will lead with that. The way I see her influence, even in making sure I researched her aside from my own early knowledge of her existence, was to say that her influence over her husband, her family, and the movement of our people, generally speaking, actually began in her childhood, the way she was prepared to mother, govern, and manage her family and its influence. Many times we don't realize that Dr. Betty Shabazz was actually adopted, and not at a young age, but much like her husband, who had a rough early childhood, she too had a difficult childhood. And she was 11 years old by the time she had been adopted. She was adopted by activists. So, activism and freedom fighters and justice fighters were not an unfamiliar trait in her own life. So, as she's often portrayed as a very meek and humble woman, she was very much so familiar with the fire in the belly necessary to fight for justice. Her mother, the mother who reared her, the woman who adopted her, groomed and cultivated her to be a poised woman. And when she recognized or heard, at that time, Minister Malcolm X, his fire influenced her to join the Nation of Islam prior to actually meeting him and ultimately marrying him. He was being influential over her to take what she had grown up with even further. And how she became influential with her husband was, her husband was very much so known as being hyper focused on his work, or hyper focused on the mission, if you will. And she not only brought balance to that, but being a well educated woman who her early pursuit of education was in early childhood education and elementary school education. She later changed to a field of nursing, which is where she, pardon me, ultimately gained her highest educational degrees. And if we have understanding of what it takes to pursue education, um, for elementary students, or the compassion necessary to pursue proficiency in the nursing field, I think that will allow us to recognize some of the poignant characteristics that she must have embodied to be an influential wife to a man like a Malcolm X, right? Yes, there were many things that we recognize rested on his shoulders in his pursuit of both justice and righteousness. It was her background and her heart's work that would have made her both an excellent teacher to young children, or a caregiver of the sick or the ill, or those in need, that allowed her to be so moving to her husband. Just as she was never out of his mind, he she was, just as he was never out of her mind, she was never out of his mind. She left an impression on her husband, strikingly so, so that when she spoke, he'd listen. And she was known in their inner circle as actually challenging him to go deeper in his pursuits. When he took, I hope you can still hear me. When he decided, come up, okay, pardon me. It stopped working, forgive me.
So when her husband would take questionable or less than popular opinions and stances on many things that may not have been, popularly acceptable at the time, she managed to not just influence him to pursue those things, but to have people understanding before he just openly shared. One of her insistence is that basically it was not enough to disagree, but to substantiate why what he thought or the stance he took was for the greater good, for the better good of families and the community at large. So much of the influence of what we learned about Malcolm X or Mandela, much of what we learned in his outward approach had come through their internal dialogue, which they customarily did each night, not just between the day, but that they churned. Thank you so much. Yes, yes, thank you. That they churned and discussed quite often his previous thoughts. I feel like this is still not. So whatever he was pursuing, whatever he was going to discuss or outwardly share with the community, they often had long, loving, but debates and challenging, as a means of, let's really flesh this out. Let's really figure this out. Not necessarily surface dialogue. And once we go, if you've ever been in a loving relationship, sometimes you know that you can come to wonderful understanding, passionate dialogue with a partner who really knows you and understands the subject matter at hand. And I would say that that is one of the great benefits that's been a ripple effect of Dr. Betty Shabazz, that she had the intimate ear of a man like Malcolm X and had the wonderful position to be able to challenge him in a loving way. And I carefully use the word challenge because that's often tagged on women as a negative thing. But in this instance, this challenging was a point of growth for him that allowed him to grow not just internally, but in his fight, in his stance. It allowed him to grow his fervor. And we as a people greatly benefited from that growth. That was the residual benefit to that growth. And so while I would say yes, she was a comforter, which is often depicted, let us look at the surface things talk about Dr. Betty Shabazz. She was wonderful, soft resting place where to come and lay his head. But the reality is she's also a confronter. She was a challenger. She confronted him in a loving way that allowed him to question his relationship with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, allowed him to question his relationship with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. She confronted him. She did comfort him, but she did not allow her husband to grow complacent. You see what I mean? She lovingly challenged him, and she gifted to us. She gifted to us, in return, the man we came to know and love. So that is my share with you all about Dr. Betty Shabazz. Thank you so much.
That's it. No.
Well, you've heard the wonderful truth about the mother and the sister and the wife. Wonderful truth, wonderful influence. Do you have any questions for any other panelists? Yes. Could you stand
Who
or
influenced him too?
Who influenced him to be?
Me being his sister, I paid for him to go on. His sister paid for him to go on Hajj, and she talked to him about that. So it was after talking to him and after him having the split, he had time out. He had time out from the nation, and I would always talk to him and encourage him. And so I helped him to pay for his trip to go on Hajj. So it was Ella, his sister, that was instrumental in that.
So was he? So was he? He was disenchanted with the nation of Islam. Is that what sort of necessitated his?
Well,
No,
no, he
that's
no.
You got to repeat the question. She got something to the mic.
Okay. Her question was he disenchanted? Was he disenchanted with the Nation of Islam? And is that what prompted him to go on Hajj? Well, he was starting to hear things then. But like I said, right then and there, he was in timeout when he went. So they gave him like a pause, where that better explain stuff. So while he was in that like limbo situation, that's when he went on Hajj after we had a conversation or whatever I paid for him. He got to experience over there and see, you know what, it's just not black people that are Muslims. It's all different colors. And he got to see that some of the things that were taught to him in the nation, that it was otherwise. He got to interact with many different people. And so that's when he started questioning a lot of different things. When he got to go over there and come back, then he had even more questions. So even the disenfranchisement that he already had, then going on Hajj and coming back and wanting to implement some of the stuff that he saw, you know, that kind of started making him really kind of the fast breakaway. But initially, when he went on Hajj, he was not excommunicated completely from the nation. But that started the impetus for him. Yes, sir.
I'd like to add that I believe Dr. Betty Shabazz influence over the significance and the importance of family is what helped fuel that disenchantment, if you will. Because if you recall, part of the crux of what really became the thorn in his side was the idea of not basically being on the up and up with your life partner, with your woman, with your wife, or to do something that in otherwise might put this at risk. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that moral compass, no, I'm not clear. The moral compass had been compromised in Malcolm. And so that also was an influence that caused the initial questioning and opening the door to being excommunicated from the Nation of Islam. And for his sister's words, which had been there for many years, his sister's words were able to sit a little deeper with him at that time, because he had a moral compass at home that would make him hypersensitive when that was compromised in others. And I personally, I think we would all agree that it is a huge benefit when we see men hold other men accountable to the character of manhood in their homes. Is there another question from the audience?
At what age did Malcolm get that drive to that he loved humanity so much that manhood that he had to that fear where he wouldn't fear nothing if it was against humanity? At what age, speaking to his mother, at what age did he get that drive?
At what age did Malcolm get the drive to fight for humanity? He was born that way. Activism, as I stated before, was all around us. We had to fight for the basic needs. So he saw us have to fight for those basic needs when he came out. And then when we were torn apart, we had no other choice but to fight for your humanity and others.
Any more questions? Now is the time to ask.
I wasn't literally.
Would you?
Okay, I'm speaking to the wife. How was it living with Malcolm when he was going through all that controversy? You know, where his children was in danger and his family was in danger. So I know there was probably a lot on him to have to go through that and still keep your who you was or who he was. How was that for you?
So we all heard the question, correct? At the time when the turmoil between the Nation of Islam and Malcolm X would have been happening, Dr. Betty Shabazz would have been a young wife in the sense that she still had small children and was having, I think, their last two children, correct? So um, this would have been a very vulnerable time for her. So you can imagine while she's standing by her man and encouraging her husband, you know, she did believe in her husband, and she knew that she and their family was at risk. The huge challenge that she had to face was in that vulnerable state. She had no choice but to lean into and trust in his protection of that family and that it was going to be all right. And I want to say that's when we see the infamous picture of Malcolm looking out the window with the automatic rifle, correct? Because at that point, he knows he has the most vulnerable condition his family can be in. And you never hear tale of Dr. Shabazz, Dr. Betty, being that hysterical wife. If you've ever been in a challenging situation, we got enough black people here. If you've ever had the police come to your house, the last thing you need is a woman in there hysterical, right? You need the people in the house. So this is just the truth. You need the people in the house to really have the confidence in whoever's the person that's going to the door. And in that instance, and quite appropriately, when we see that famous photo, that was the posture they took. They had an agreement in that family that the protocol was he got this. And you had to understand how vulnerable that had to be. Their house had been firebombed, right? We're thinking about the timing here, all that was going on. I mean, we know the nation today, so we can imagine the nation then, right? So we knew the climate. And again, if you are a student of COINTELPRO, we know the police today, so you can imagine the police then. So with the heightened level of all that was going on at that time, as vulnerable as she was, and no doubt fearful, she never wavered in her confidence in her husband. And I would say that's a lesson that all of us can take as sisters, is choose a man you could be confident in when they at the door. You understand what I mean? Choose a man that you can have that level of confidence. You know, dinner is nice, dates are great, that's good. But have a man, choose the man that you can be confident when the wolf is at the door. So I'm going to say that's what it was like living with. And in that time, for her to keep it as steady as she could.
She was never out there.
No, and that doesn't mean that they didn't have conflict, but I'm saying that she wasn't going to do things that insinuated a lack of belief in him, and that home could still be home. And that's verified in the fact that long after his death, unto her death, her children still believed in their mother's word. You get what I'm saying? That signifies how steady and consistent a character this woman held.
So I want to add to that just by saying she was, and let me know if this is correct, she was actually an extension of him. She was an extension of him. She embodied him, but she was also a part of him and his belief in everything that he stood for. So she extended everything that he believed.
Do we know what Malcolm's relationship was with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan and Imam the Redeemer Muhammad during this time of turmoil when he's at the door, at the window with the rifle? Do we know what did his wife, how did she counsel him on that? Do we know?
Well, we know what the relationship was with these other men. We only know the results of his wife's counsel. You know, I can't quote verbatim what she may have told her husband, but I can say that she was always noted as unwavering by his side. He was at odds with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Louis Farrakhan, but he was always a resolved spirit as well. He wasn't jittery, if you will. Malcolm wasn't a skittish type man. And so, though he was at odds with these men, meaning disagreement, I am using the term, it was a dignified disagreement because he was resolved. He understood what was coming his way. He understood what these people were capable of because these are people he shared intimate life community with. You understand? So he understood how this would move, how this would go. I would say it is like any of us. If you can think back to a child, if you have siblings and you all have ever been in a vicious disagreement, you ever got in a fight with your sibling when your mama was going to work? Okay. Well, the only really thing you guarantee yourself at that time is there's a good chance she's not going to kill me before my mama get back. Do you get what I'm saying? But she will hit me with that shoe. And so I'm using that because as adults now we can look back and laugh at that. But if you've ever been in a vicious brawl with your sibling, then you understand what I mean. Now quantify that with what Malcolm was experiencing with men he had shared brotherhood with. He shared brotherhood with these men. And because of that, he knew very well how far they would go. He knew them. So this wasn't something surprising to him. And I'm going to say Dr. Betty knew them. And she knew her husband. And so in that regard, we'll have to look at it as all you can do in that space is peace, be still, right? I'm one of many children. And as siblings, you know, we've had all kinds of beef. And it's funny because just recently, like I've got a sister who she will get into it one way with one of our other sisters because that sister's gonna cry and she's probably gonna pray for you. She don't get into it with me like that. I'm gonna pray for you after I smack you. Do you get what I'm saying? So the argument is a little different between these two siblings. So I'm saying that is the example we have to take. I mean, it was a deadly disagreement, but it was a dignified disagreement because in the art of war, which these men did study, these men studied the art of war. Panic and being shook will not serve you in battle like that. So the first order of business was you had to be resolved, and a warrior, even in the midst of deep battle, is at peace. And that's what's so dangerous about a warrior. They are at peace with the war. They are at peace with the battle. And so, you know, that's my share as far as, you know, the speculation of what that internal counsel would have had to have been.
Thank you so much. We're about to wrap up our panel. Are there any more you want to contribute, Mom, sis, before we close out our panel discussion?
Just know that Malcolm and him fighting for us, there are others that are out there that are going to be placed in that position. So for us to stand with them and be a part of it, the connection that is needed for the fight to be successful in this world not all not have to die. Well, of course we have to die, but not that way. Exactly. Yeah. That's
And I guess my parting thoughts on this would be to just remember that what my brother stood for going forward, especially with us here in Indianapolis, with tomorrow being officially Malcolm X Day, to hold your head up proud, to know that what he fought for wasn't in vain, that we are the recipients of what he fought for, and just be proud for that. You know, he worked hard for it.
Game's longer.
I concur. I concur. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful.
Let's give another big round of applause to our beautiful sisters and their contribution today. That was very good, very special. Yeah, we're still on. The food is about ready. Well, we may bring it outside, put it on the table. But while that's being done, I want to call forward our brother Judge David Shaheed and hear his thoughts about Malcolm as a mentor. Malcolm was a mentor to him in real lifetime when Malcolm was still here, right? And you were still here, right? He's still here. But Malcolm was here at the time. Judge David Shaheed.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I think before I say anything, I think we all should give. Oh, okay.
Stand by right here.
All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Before I make any remarks, I think we should all acknowledge as best we can the efforts of visionary leadership and Imam Sahir, and if we can say takbir or whatever, because this was a marvelous effort, and I remember when he mentioned this idea, and to see all of you out here supporting it really does my heart good, so I know it makes him feel good as well. I have, since the food is almost ready, my remarks are going to be very, 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 very brief. As we all know, part of the history of Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz is that he was incarcerated. He made some mistakes, and that caused him to be locked up. And as a result of that, that's where he learned about Islam. Back in that period of time, the Nation of Islam had a very active prison ministry. And Malcolm learned about Islam while he was in prison, and he learned about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad while he was in prison. So I'll let you do the research on that yourself. But what I want to comment on is those who are incarcerated and those who lose their freedom in the American injustice system. And the reason why I say the injustice system is you have to go back to the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution said that there shall be no slavery or involuntary servitude. And that's the key, involuntary servitude, unless someone is committed of a crime. Now keep in mind, this was done in 1865, and the reason why it was done in 1865 is because the Emancipation Proclamation was not enough. Legislation had to be put in place. And so keep in mind, everyone, North and South, were making money out of enslaved populations. And so the plantations in the South still had to produce. And so the caveat or the exception, unless convicted of a crime, allowed the slave states to make up laws for the recently the recent people of my ancestry who were no longer slaves.
So they made up laws about vagrancy or anything else so that convict leasing became the way that enslaved people, formerly enslaved people, were put back on the plantation through convict leasing and also put back into the mines so that money could be made through coal mining and the plantations. And the reason why I say that is because we have a criminal justice system that really is based on the fact that enslaved populations were serving a place on the plantation and in the coal mines even after slavery was over. The reason why I bring that up is that Malcolm was incarcerated. He admitted that he made mistakes. But one of the things that his autobiography caused me to recognize, and one of the things I've been able to advance as a judge, is to advocate for people who are recently released. We were able to start a reentry program in a court that I was responsible for. But even more than that, there are two things that I want to cause you to think about as to what you can do based upon situations that exist. First is, many of us, I know for myself, I have family members that have been in the system. I was speaking with my niece yesterday. She was incarcerated in Southern Indiana. I visited her there. When she was released to a halfway house in Bloomington, I visited her there. And I'm saying to you, don't forget those relatives that some of us may have in our family because they have made a mistake and been in the system. You don't have to reach out to them monetarily, but if there are those of you who have members of your family, be it close family, extended family, who have been caught up in the system, don't forget about this. If God has the capacity to forgive, who are we not to forgive those who are in our family who have made mistakes? And so if it's nothing more than just giving them a call or sending them an email, how are you doing? We love you, we care about you. Just that gesture of love and compassion to those who have been in the system is a charity that I think we can all afford. But please don't disregard those who have been caught up in the system. Just like somebody reached out to Malcolm, look what came from that reaching out, and look what he did. And that same possibility exists for those who are in our family who may have made a mistake. And my niece Kim and I have talked regularly, and I've seen her progress just because of love and attention. Imam Sahir and I, as well as others, have been in the institution and have talked to those in the institution. That's a different kind of work, and you may want to get a little conversation with those who've been there before they do that work. But for those that we know of who have been released, if they're in your family connection, please reach out to them and say a judge who has encouraged you to do that as a gesture of compassion for them. The other thing is the modern version of convict leasing is the school to prison pipeline.
Yes, sir.
And those of us who are in the educational system know about that. There's a disproportionate number of African Americans that are in special ed, go through suspension from school, or get kicked out or expelled. A disproportionate number of African Americans in that. There's a disproportionate number that are in the juvenile system. And then that same number is tracked to the prison system, the adult prison system. That's the new version of what was convict leasing. The system in America is designed to lock up African American people. That's the way the system works, and that's why there's a disproportionate number being expelled in special ed and being kicked out, a disproportionate number in the juvenile system, a disproportionate number in the adult system. If you are aware of this, one of the ways you can disrupt that school to prison pipeline is to help a child learn to read. By the third grade, they know the number of at-risk students in the population because they can't read. And if you just volunteer, you don't even have to go to the school anymore. Now you can do it remote. But the main thing is if you help a child learn to read, you're interrupting the school to prison pipeline. Because once a child can read, they can fend for themselves. There's an old expression: if you give a person a fish, they'll eat for a meal. If you teach them how to fish, they'll be able to fend for themselves. If you teach a child to read, they'll be able to fend for themselves. And in the world that we're living in, which is becoming more and more sophisticated, a child that can't read is not going to have a future in this world. And so if you want to make a real difference in a child's life, in a person's life, help them learn to read. And one of my daughters is at the Global Prep Academy where Imam Sahir is on the board. And one of the issues that she is constantly speaking about as a problem are those children in her school that can't read. And each of us can help those children. So my request on this day where we're commemorating the life of El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz and the fact that he got a second start in prison because somebody cared about him is don't forget those who have been released because they need support. And in some of the most simplest ways, sometimes it's just getting transportation to a job interview because most of them, when they come out of the institution, they don't have a driver's license. They have to get a driver's license. They have to get their ID, all of those things. And so just the simplest of things may be a gesture that will help them get on their feet. And then also, if you help a child learn to read, you're interrupting the school to prison pipeline. So I can't avoid with what I've seen in the criminal justice system or criminal injustice system without saying something to advocate for those who took the same path as El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz. So again, thank all of you for coming out, but don't let this be just something where we hear. If we can't find a way to make a difference in somebody's life, all this information that we've heard about El-Hajj Malik is good for us, but who benefits from it? So thank you again, Imam Sahir, for giving me this opportunity to advocate for my people, like El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz.
Thank you, sir.
Excellent. That's excellent. Again, a round of applause for Judge David Shaheed. Judge Shaheed, I guess you don't mind me saying this, but he was so fair. That's a good word. With his people before him, the prosecution tried to avoid his court. And I'm getting it right. Yeah, they said he followed the law. And he did it right. Things we don't know about. And also, Judge, he's gone. Yeah, he mentioned how you got that system going for the women coming home. You had that. Did he mention that part? Remember the women coming home from prison? You had that program set up to help them. Did he mention that? Reentries. A lot of things that he has done that he won't pat me on my back, but he done a lot of good things. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say, if somebody wants to volunteer, they don't know where to go to help with your mentoring or reading, go to your public library and ask if they have a tutoring program or a reading program, especially in IPS, but probably in Lawrence or other districts.
Yes. Go to your public library and volunteer to help tutor.
Or to help with
Thank you. That was reading program. Thank you very much. Now the food is ready. We're trying to figure out the system for the food. But I must say this here too. This is sponsored by Neuroli, yes. But we had more than Muslims to help with this. We had people from Witherspoon Presbyterian Church. They gave a big donation in many ways. That's Sister, Dr. Dorothy Herron. Is she here today? Yes. Yeah. So this is a interfaith effort, and so we want to make sure that's known. It's not. Yes, it was started by us, but it was not just us. And it was really inspiring to have people join us. We have with us our Maury Science Super Brothers with us as well. People from different mosques, different communities. And while they're bringing the food out, I hope they hear me say that. While they're bringing the food out, somebody help me out. If you look over to your all's left in that walk trail, we were granted a project with Keep Indy Beautiful. And they put the walk trail in, the benches, the pergola. You come back in 2 weeks, they're going the pergola can be 3 times as long as it is now. We're working on a gazebo on the forehand down there. So this is open to the public. If you ever want to come, that's an 8-mile trek if you want to keep count. And you can come and walk. And over here, there's a peace garden that we built. You can't see it too well, but it's nice and quiet. We got a couple of cars go by sometimes, but you're welcome to come to use this whenever you want to. If you want to come here for a wedding or whatever, and just let us know, and we'll work it in. This is a public place. So, did Dr. Thomas Brown leave it? Because he's an awesome brother too. He was with Malcolm X less than 2 weeks before he was murdered. I think when he was driving from, was it Tuskegee to Selma? Well, they were in the car with Malcolm. So they're bringing the fish out. What we have menu: fish, burgers, beef, beef or turkey, hot dogs, as they call. What else we got? Some baked beans. So we come up with the plates. You feel free to come up and enjoy yourself. We have drinks and too with water. We have water to drink. You can't go wrong with water. It was made on the first day God created us. You can't go wrong with water. I think the first day or second day. But water been here for a long time. Long before Pepsi Cola. So please come forward and help yourself. We're gonna have it's like to have for someone to come to bless the food other than myself, but I can do it. There was section. You come forward and bless the food, please. Yeah, come bless the food, please. You do it together. We do it together. Okay, go first.
God of all, we thank you so much for the chance to gather here today. We thank you so much for those who have spoken and taught us so eloquently. We pray that you will always give us humble hearts to serve you. And we pray that you will nourish this food to our bodies and that you will bless the hands of those who have prepared it and that you will bless this community as it goes forward. Amen.
With the name of God, the merciful benefactor, the merciful Redeemer, the creator of us all. We thank you for your blessings upon us. We've had mental food, we've had spiritual food. Our souls have been fed. And we thank you for providing for us, and we can be fed in all ways possible. And let us feed our minds the spirit of El Hakamika Shabazz. Feed that into our minds, into our souls, until the best of him become the best of us. And we go forward in the spirit of all of our leaders, so we can become leaders in our own rights. We thank you for this blessing. Peace be with you. Amen. Amen. So we can come forward. Got Blake's here. Can we get my sound top? Sound top here. There are restrooms inside. You need to go to the restroom. We do have sanitizers you want to use for your hands. Go ahead, pump bottle.
Oh, that was all power.
I guess we could. Yes, we can. Yeah, this is love.
Sure, Shaheen. Sure, Shaheen. Good time.
Yes, thank you, sir. Back in there with these dogs. Right, so go back in your seat. Yes, I'm really happy.
All right, tonight our seniors need to be fed first.
Dad, it works for you.
How you doing? Good, you? It's your turn now. Good. I'm disappointed. Oh, well. I'm saying you ain't got a laugh. Everybody get some. We got him. Oh, I see him. We gonna find that spot.
I've been waiting for that phone call.
I know. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot. Oh my goodness. Yeah, he did. I did. Yeah, that sounds nice. Let's go down here, like on this side. Just walk around. Yeah, I thought so. More good.
Give me a shout out and let me know. I don't like I'm eating. I know. You're looking good there, man. Looking good.
What you got? Oh, Whitey. You fried them? Okay. Huh? Okay. Granny made it green. This you want to go sit down and say you better put it on the hill.
Doing that.
Oh, Sis Carol, you bringing cups? I guess it's good enough.
Oh, I'm not taking the bread. Yeah, the meat out. Thank you. What you ordered? What you ordered? Yeah, you see grandma. You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, yes, you are. Wipe your hands off.
Okay, here's the ketchup, you guys. Sure.
Okay. It's a long way. Good to see you. Yeah, my nephew, he was in class.
Oh, it wasn't you this time. Okay.
Yes, me too. Assalamu alaikum. I forgot something very important to keep moving in your food, but I have some medallions I want to give to our panelists today. It is a medallion honors the 100th birthday celebration of El Haj Shabazz. So I'm gonna give one to our panelists today. Dr. Gill was our moderator. Okay. Sorry, I forgot to do it in order.
Y'all don't get no more. So y'all have two already. Thank you very much.
Sister Joy. Is she nearby? Joy Rashid. Dr. Lisa Maxey. Sister Lataba. Are they still here? I'm gonna have to go find them. But also I have one for Brother Omar. And for our committee, Brother Tavis. He had to leave. And one for Dr. Dorothy. There you go, sir.
Brethren?
Yes, sir. Alhamdulillah. So I have to go find the rest of the people. I think they may have left.
Oh, now you got some shade, bro.
So shit, I don't know what I do.
I know, I went by back. Waving at you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get it. Yeah, Birdie becoming.
Yeah, because I wanted a burger.
Yes, I guess. Are there some more of those little hugs? Okay. You got it. But I gotta get them up from a G. No problem. Probably cool. Oh, I got it. Yeah. Hmm. Oh, I thought you said one. No, no, he'll probably take this one. Yeah. Let's see. For that. Okay.
Where you at?
I got it.
Okay. Okay. There she is. I'll turn this off.